What if I told you that one of the greatest human catastrophes in modern history was not carried out by a nation, but owned by a single man? For years, history softened the image of King Leopold II of Belgium, presenting him as a builder, a patron of progress, a European monarch obsessed with prestige. But far from the palaces of Brussels, another reality was unfolding, hidden behind treaties, maps, and carefully chosen words. In the late 19th century, as Europe raced to divide Africa, Leopold claimed a vast territory in Central Africa under the banner of humanitarianism. He promised civilization, free trade, and the end of slavery. What followed was something else entirely. This story matters because it exposes how power can disguise itself as virtue, how violence can be bureaucratized, and how suffering can be made invisible when profit depends on silence. The echoes of these events still shape lives, borders, and memories today. And it all began with an ambition that was never satisfied. By the mid-1800s, Belgium was a young nation, small in size and influence. King Leopold II, who ascended the throne in 1865, was deeply frustrated by this limitation. Unlike other European powers, Belgium possessed no overseas empire, and Leopold believed colonies were essential for national prestige and personal legacy. Africa, at the time, was becoming the focus of European expansion. Much of the continent was still unknown to Europeans, mapped vaguely, and spoken of as opportunity rather than as home to millions of people. Leopold saw this uncertainty as an opening. Rather than acting openly as a conqueror, he adopted a different strategy. Through international conferences and private organizations, he presented himself as a philanthropist interested in exploration, science, and humanitarian reform. In 1885, after careful diplomacy, he gained international recognition for his control over a massive region in Central Africa, the Congo Free State. It was not a Belgian colony, it was Leopold's personal possession. What this meant in practice would soon become clear. The turning point came when the Congo's economic value was fully realized. Initially, Leopold's control focused on ivory, a lucrative resource in Europe. But in the 1890s, global demand for rubber exploded, driven by industrialization. The Congo was rich in wild rubber vines. This discovery changed everything. Leopold imposed a system designed to extract maximum profit at minimal cost. Indigenous communities were ordered to meet strict rubber quotas. Failure was not an option. To enforce these demands, Leopold relied on the force publique, a colonial army made up of African soldiers under European officers. Villages were held hostage, food supplies were seized, families were threatened to ensure compliance. These policies were not accidents or excesses, they were calculated. Each reformulation of the system tightened control, increasing output while reducing resistance. At this moment, the Congo ceased to be merely exploited. It became a machine, one fueled by fear, punishment, and irreversible violence. As rubber quotas rose, so did brutality. The system rewarded results, not restraint. Soldiers were required to account for their ammunition, leading to the widespread practice of collecting severed hands as proof that bullets had not been wasted. Entire regions were destabilized. Villages fled into forests. Agriculture collapsed. Famine followed. Physical punishment, whippings, mutilations, executions became tools of administration rather than crimes of passion. Reports of abuse began to surface. Missionaries, travelers, and a small number of officials documented what they witnessed, but distance worked in Leopold's favor. Communication was slow, and denial was easy. Inside the Congo Free State, secrecy was enforced through isolation and terror. Outside it, Leopold invested heavily in propaganda, portraying his rule as benevolent and progressive. The violence was not chaotic, it was systematic, and it continued year after year, largely uninterrupted, while profits flowed steadily back to Europe. By the early 20th century, the human cost was impossible to fully measure. Population loss in the Congo was staggering, the result of killings, disease, starvation, and collapsing birth rates. Many historians estimate that millions of lives were lost during Leopold's rule. International pressure slowly mounted. Activists like E.D. Morel and Roger Casement exposed evidence that contradicted Leopold's claims. Photographs, testimonies, and official reports made denial harder to sustain. Yet accountability remained limited. Leopold never set foot in the Congo. When control of the territory was finally transferred to the Belgian state in 1908, the system changed in form, but not immediately in consequence. Leopold himself died the following year, wealthy and largely unpunished. Much of what occurred was minimized, reframed, or forgotten in European public memory. For the Congolese people, the damage endured, socially, economically, and psychologically, long after the world moved on. The story of King Leopold II is not just about one ruler or one place. It is about how cruelty can be normalized when wrapped in legality and distance. It reveals how language, words like civilization and progress, can be used to conceal destruction. Power, when unchecked, does not always announce itself with chaos. Sometimes it arrives quietly through contracts, institutions, and systems that reward obedience and silence. The Congo Free State stands as a reminder that some of history's darkest chapters were not hidden because they were invisible, but because too many people benefited from looking away. The scars of this period remain etched into the land and its people long after monuments were built and fortunes secured. And the legacy of Leopold's Congo endures as a warning, one written not in legend, but in lives that were never meant to be expendable.